Jeff Matter. Thank you. Perhaps Jeff could come up and just give us a little bit of a brief on the Sporting Car Club's involvement in the Grand Prix from 1985 onwards. 1985 Grand Prix being the first Grand Prix held in South Australia after 1961.
Thanks, Keith. Yeah, well, let's start off first and foremost. There's two people which you should really honour for that did help me a hell of a lot with getting that first Grand Prix off the track. And one is Reg Sparks, who this room's named after, and the other is Richard's dad, John. Those two people they made life very simple for me back in 1985. Because the Sporting Car Club actually, even though we were running in conjunction with CAMS from Melbourne, the Sporting Car Club put together all the officials. And that was, if you go back, anyone who's got an original program, you'll see Reg Sparks' name's in there as the man of officials. Unfortunately, John's dad's not there, or nothing like that, but I mean, Richard's dad's not there, but yeah. But Parky alluded to it a bit in his speech. It's an interesting thing. I was a member of the sexual convening for the 150th year of Australia, South Australia. Forgive me. It's late 1984, and we were meeting then for what we could do for 1986. And another friend of mine who was on that committee was a guy called Bill O'Gorman. And Bill said, why don't we look at doing a Grand Prix or a car race or something, get the Grand Prix out here. And at that stage, Wendy Chapman, who was the Lord Mayor or Lady Mayoress, she's chairman of our committee. She said, well, that sounds a good idea. Anyway, as it happened, it wasn't John Bannon, but it doesn't matter. He was the Premier at the time, but he endorsed it. It's 1984, I'm in London, so is Bill. I'm at the Brands Hatch Grand Prix. We met with Bernie, and yeah, that sounds good. But if you want it, it's got to be 85. And we sort of looked at one another. Anyway, I was still over there because I used to go to Grand Prix, so I started going to Grand Prix overseas back from about 1977 on. So I was from there. I was going to do the German and the French Grand Prix, and Bill came straight back, got on to Wendy and turned John Bannon, and they said, let's get it going. At that stage, Mal Hemling, or Dr. Mal Hemling, he was basically Bannon's right-hand man in there, and they got it going. And then by the time I got back, things were really moving. So I suggested, well, look, I'm not really up to speed on a lot of what's happening with officials and things. And so I said, well, let's use the Sporting Car Club, which we did. And Sporting Car Club really were responsible for 85 and 86 before when we took it back in-house, because by then we'd learned enough ourselves, I suppose, for want of a better word. And so that's how the Sporting Car Club first got involved, and to their credit, right through to the end, were the source that I used through whoever was the competition secretary or whatever, when they had Pimmy had his little room out the side here, and they used to get all the officials, they would do all my hard work for me, sending letters out around everywhere for officials, and it worked well. And then, of course, consequently after that, I went to Melbourne for a few years, but then I came back when John Olsen asked me to run the Clipsals, and we kept the system going. And that system's kept going for the Sporting Car Club ever since. And that probably our database is probably one of the best you could ever get when it comes to officials. And we used to get, I had regular guys that used to come in from the UK, South Africa, New Zealand, and then of course in later years in the Clipsals, when we did all the training for for the Malaysian Grand Prix, some for Shanghai. Also, we were in the process, and we were doing all the training for some of the other events overseas, where they'd just send their top people out all the time. So it's been an interesting period of time, really, and the club can be very, very proud of its association all the way through. So that's about it on that sort of stuff. I mean, the rest of it's probably pretty well history, really. I mean, even Bernie, to his credit, he said we were, and if anyone has had the opportunity to travel overseas prior to '85, a Grand Prix overseas in those days would be, most of them 2-day events anyway, or if there was a Friday, it was a sort of unofficial one. And you'd have a touring car race of some kind put on by someone or other. I mean, back in those days, BMW M1s were the big thing, where all the actual Formula 1 drivers used to drive in those, what they call a pro race. Or you might have some little local race, and then on Saturday you'd have practice and qualifying for the Grand Prix. On Sunday morning you'd have this professional race or whatever, and Sunday afternoon you'd have the Grand Prix. And it wasn't until we, in '85, did what we did, that was basically the beginning of the way Grand Prix are run around the world now. And old Bernie, to his credit, he let us go. He's good. He's a man of very few words. I used to, back in those days, of course, there was only faxes, and I actually was never really, I never really worked for the Grand Prix office. I was just there, filling in time, because I had to do something, because at that stage my cabs were going like a house on fire. I had the truck business going well, and I was just starting the couriers, so I had to do something to keep out of trouble. But of a night time, and I was really working for a guy called Glenn Jones, what we call services manager. A lovely guy. He's the sort of guy we could bring him out in one night. He'd have you in fits of laughter all the way through. He's a beautiful speaker. And to Mal and his credit, they sort of let me go to do what I had to do in motor, because their attitude was, we know, and there's too many ladies here, I'll tell you how they were. We know SFA about motorsport, Jeff, that's your role. You know, and it worked. But of a night time, like, you'd send Bernie a fax with about 5 or 6 questions on it, and you'd whistle it through to him about 5:30 at night. And then Glenn and I'd go down, there's a little bar around the corner, and Glenn and we'd go down there and talk over what's happened for the day, and then we'd go back about 7 o'clock at night, which by then is depending on the time of the year, 7:30, 8 o'clock over in London. And sure enough, there'd be that same piece of paper would come back, and on it would be, yes, no, your call, couldn't care less. That's all he'd ever say. You know, and I wish the hell I'd have kept all that stuff. Imagine what it'd be worth now. You know, and so obviously you used to trash it all. But that's the sort of bloke he was. A man of very few words. But at the same token, whatever he wanted, he got. He was very good like that. So that's probably, from my point of view, has been an interesting, 30 odd years. Yeah, kept me off the streets. Yeah.
How significant were the HQs in?
Look, Look, Graham, if you go back, if you look back in history, now when we run the HQs in '95, which was the last Grand Prix, and we had the biggest crowd that's ever been at a motor race meeting anywhere in the world, other than in the Indy 500, and the reason for that was because we had the HQs.
You finally got credit for the HQs, Graham.
We have a special concept, right?
The difference is that it took you another 20 years to get into a Formula 3.
That's unfortunate.
So far, we've heard about how we've evolved to the 1961 Grand Prix. We've heard about the cars that were there. We've heard about the drivers that were there. We've heard about what's happened from 1985 with what's happened.